They laughed when the ragged old man walked into the courtroom, jeered at his stained jacket and battered boots. To them, Ray Delaney was just another vagrant wasting time. They thought they saw weakness. What they didn't know: that jacket bore the insignia of a unit that once saved lives in Nam. That man a decorated hero. And when Judge Whitmore stood up and saluted him, everything changed. Stick around. Justice isn't just coming. It's about to explode in the face of those who mocked him. Curious about our global audience? Let us know where you're watching from and what time it is. Remember to subscribe for more content. Chief Bailiff Marcus Thornton stood at his post, radiating authority through every pore of his perfectly pressed uniform. The morning light streaming through the courthouse windows caught his polished badge, his pride and power made manifest. He watched with growing irritation as the disheveled vagrant shuffled into his pristine courtroom, the man's worn military surplus jacket, an offense to everything Thornton stood for. "Stand straight when you enter my courtroom." Chief Bailiff Marcus Thornton barked satisfaction coursing through him as the homeless man flinched. Several spectators had their phones out, recording what they probably thought would be another routine case. Let them watch. Let them see how order was maintained. The sharp click of Thornton's boots echoed across the marble floor as he approached the defendant's table. "You think those old fatigues give you special rights?" he sneered, grabbing Ray Delaney's arm and yanking him upright. "This isn't some VFW hall. This is my domain." A young law clerk gasped, her phone steady as she captured the moment. Perfect. The more witnesses to his authority, the better. Within minutes, Jaffor Thornton law would start trending. He could already taste the viral fame. "You don't belong here," Chief Bailiff Marcus Thornton hissed, tightening his grip until Delaney winced. "I've dealt with plenty of veterans trying to play on sympathy. Not in my courthouse." But something in Delaney's eyes gave Thornton pause. Not fear or submission, but a quiet defiance that sent an unexpected chill down his spine. The man said nothing yet. His steady gaze seemed to pierce right through Thornton's carefully constructed facade. Case 247, Delaney Ray. Loitering. The clerk announced, her voice wavering slightly. "That's Judge Whitmore's father's unit insignia," someone whispered. "Vietnam 68. Chief Bailiff Marcus Thornton's hand instinctively went to his badge, polishing it with mounting unease. The judge's eyes had narrowed, studying both him and Delaney with disturbing intensity. For the first time in 15 years of ruling his courthouse domain, Thornton felt his power wobble. Will my authority survive this challenge? The thought crept in uninvited as he resumed his post, watching Judge Whitmore's face. His kingdom had always seemed unshakable, built on fear and rigid control. But something was shifting in his courtroom's atmosphere, like the first tremors before an earthquake. Looking down at his badge, Chief Bailiff Marcus Thornton remembered his academy instructor's words: "Power isn't just about force, it's about wisdom in its use." He'd laughed then. Now, with phones recording and tensions rising, those words returned to haunt him. Type "power falls" if you've ever seen authority crumble. The morning sun caught his badge again, but this time its gleam seemed less like glory and more like a spotlight, exposing cracks in his carefully maintained facade. As Judge Whitmore prepared to speak, Chief Bailiff Marcus Thornton couldn't shake the feeling that his reign over this courtroom was about to face its greatest test. Have you ever felt your unquestioned authority suddenly threatened? Have you seen the moment when power meets its match? Chief Bailiff Marcus Thornton was about to learn that lesson, and his world would never be the same. Officer Marcus Reynolds sat rigid in his precinct office, jaw clenched, as he scrolled through the mounting complaints flooding his inbox. 4 hours had passed since that damned courtroom scene, and his perfectly constructed world was beginning to fracture. The service record of that vagrant Ray Delaney shouldn't have mattered. just another nuisance to be swept from the pristine streets Officer Marcus Reynolds had sworn to protect. His fingers traced the brass nameplate on his desk, a ritual that had always steadied him. 23 years on the force, following the footsteps of his mentor, Captain James Harrison, the man who'd taught him how to maintain order in their district. "Some people need to learn their place." Harrison's words echoed in his memory, the same wisdom Officer Marcus Reynolds had embraced throughout his career. The research paper on his screen glared accusingly. Systemic bias in urban policing. Impact on veteran populations. His chest tightened as statistics jumped out. 60% higher arrest rates for homeless veterans, 40% more likely to face maximum penalties. Officer Marcus Reynolds had always dismissed such studies as liberal propaganda, until now. A notification pinged. Another video of this morning's confrontation going viral. Reynolds exposed trending. His hand instinctively reached for his badge, the metal cool against his trembling fingers. The same badge Captain Harrison had polished before pinning it on him, saying, "Remember, son, we write the story of our streets." But now buried in personnel files he'd accessed with shaking hands, Officer Marcus Reynolds discovered a pattern he couldn't ignore. Dozens of veterans, all with distinguished service records, all charged with loitering or disturbing the peace under his watch. Each case following Harrison's playbook perfectly, the same playbook that had earned Officer Marcus Reynolds commendations and promotions. "Have you seen the numbers?" Lieutenant Sarah Chen's voice startled him. She stood in his doorway, tablet in hand, her usual admiring smile replaced with something colder. "Internal Affairs is asking questions about your arrest record, Reynolds, particularly concerning veterans." Officer Marcus Reynolds felt his carefully constructed reality cracking. "These people are disturbing the peace, Sarah. Just following protocol." The words sounded hollow even to him. "Like you followed protocol with James Harrison's cases." She placed a thick file on his desk. Before he was forced to retire, his blood ran cold. Harrison's retirement 5 years ago had been quiet, buried under paperwork and sealed records. Officer Marcus Reynolds had never questioned it, had simply stepped into his mentor's role, continuing his methods. The badge felt heavier, now its shine dulled by the fluorescent office lights. In its reflection, Officer Marcus Reynolds saw not the respected law enforcement officer he'd believed himself to be, but something else. Something that made his stomach turn. Type "legacy lies" if you've ever discovered your mentor's dark truth. His phone buzzed again. The courthouse was releasing details about Ray Delaney's military record. Distinguished service, multiple commendations. A hero who'd saved an entire unit in '68. The same year Harrison had started his special protocols for handling veteran cases. Officer Marcus Reynolds opened his bottom drawer where he kept his own service medals. They seemed to mock him, now representing not honor, but a system he'd blindly perpetuated. Studies showed that officers with military experience were actually less likely to use excessive force, unless they'd been trained by someone like Harrison. The precinct walls felt closer, the air thicker. Outside his office, he could hear whispers, see colleagues averting their eyes. The empire Harrison had built, that Officer Marcus Reynolds had inherited and expanded, was built on a foundation of targeted discrimination and buried truths. His badge caught the light again, and Officer Marcus Reynolds remembered his academy graduation. "Your badge is your truth," the instructor had said. But whose truth? Harrison's, his own, or the ugly reality emerging from these files? The clock on his wall ticked accusingly as Officer Marcus Reynolds faced a choice: continue defending a system he now knew was corrupt, or confront the dark legacy he'd inherited. His hands shook as he reached for his phone, seeing another notification Internal Affairs wanted to meet. Tomorrow. "Have you ever realized you've become what you once swore to fight against?" Magistrate Victor Hargrove paced his chambers, his face illuminated by the harsh glow of his phone screen, as Ontsquashwanker veteran truth flooded his social media feeds. The trending videos of Ray Delaney's military records made his stomach churn. Each new revelation felt like another nail in his carefully constructed coffin of authority. The Silver Star citation, the rescue mission, Lieutenant James Whitmore's sworn statement, all of it spreading like wildfire, mocking his earlier dismissal of just another vagrant. His fingers trembled as he adjusted his judicial robe, the garment that had always felt like armor now seeming to weigh him down like chainmail. The brass nameplate on his desk, Magistrate Victor Hargrove, caught the afternoon light, no longer gleaming with authority, but accusingly reflecting his own haunted expression. "Sir, CNN is requesting a statement." His clerk Jennifer whispered from the doorway, her usual deference tinged with something new. Was it disappointment? They're running a special segment on homeless veterans in an hour. Victor Hargrove's throat tightened as he waved her away. The irony wasn't lost on him. How many times had he preened for the cameras, positioning himself as the law and order judge? Now those same cameras were turning against him, excavating every case where he'd dismissed homeless defendants without a second thought. His phone buzzed again. A text from Chief Justice Morrison. "Emergency meeting, 4 p.m. Explain yourself." The words blurred as sweat dripped onto the screen. The Judicial Conduct Board would be next. They'd review every ruling, every contempt charge, every dismissive comment captured by his courtroom's audio system. The courthouse halls echoed with whispers as he moved toward his courtroom. Faces turned away. Conversations hushed. The power he'd wielded so carelessly for years was evaporating like morning dew under a harsh sun. His hand instinctively reached for his gavel, his symbol of authority, but even its smooth wooden handle felt foreign now. Through the courtroom's wooden doors, he could hear the growing crowd. Reporters, veterans advocates, social media influencers, all waiting to witness his return to the bench. All because he couldn't be bothered to look beyond his prejudices to see the hero beneath the ragged clothes. "Have you seen the footage?" A bailiff's whisper carried around the corner. "The way Hargrove treated him yesterday, treating a Silver Star recipient like garbage. My dad served in Nam. This makes me sick." Magistrate Victor Hargrove's hands shook as he gripped his leather chair, no longer a throne, but a seat of judgment, against him. The afternoon sun streamed through the high windows, highlighting the empty witness stand where tomorrow Ray Delaney would tell his story. Not as a defendant, but as a decorated veteran. A hero. The man who saved Judge Whitmore's father. His phone vibrated one final time. A notification from the State Supreme Court Judicial Review Board, emergency session scheduled. The words confirmed his worst fears. This wasn't just about one case anymore. This was about every homeless person he'd condemned, every veteran he'd dismissed, every life he'd impacted through his arrogance. The courtroom doors loomed before him, and for the first time in his career, Magistrate Victor Hargrove was afraid to walk through them. Type "Justice served" if you believe every judge should face their prejudices. The gavel, his symbol of power, sat cold and accusatory on his bench, waiting for tomorrow's session. But tomorrow it wouldn't thunder with his authority. Instead, it would signal his own day of reckoning. District Attorney Victor Blackwood gripped his leather briefcase tighter, his knuckles whitening as he strode into the courthouse. 12 hours since that homeless veteran had disrupted his perfect record, and now everything was unraveling. The press vultures were circling their cameras, tracking his every move as he passed through security. "Your badge, Mr. Blackwood." The guard's hesitation spoke volumes. Victor Blackwood touched the golden district attorney pin on his lapel, his symbol of authority for 15 years, and flashed his ID with practiced arrogance. But something felt different today. Wrong. News feeds lit up his phone. DA's history of veteran prosecutions exposed. Victor Blackwood's stomach churned as he scrolled through the headlines. Hundreds of cases like Delaney's veterans charged with petty crimes, all bearing his signature. His legacy of cleaning up the streets now painted as a crusade against heroes. District Attorney Blackwood. A reporter thrust a microphone toward his face. Comments on Judge Whitmore's intervention in the Delaney case he pushed past but couldn't escape the whispers. His phone buzzed again. Justice for Vets trending. The courtroom doors loomed before him. Victor Blackwood adjusted his tie, rehearsing the arguments that had never failed him. Vagrancy laws exist for public safety, he muttered. Order must be maintained. The words rang hollow now. Inside the gallery was packed. Victor Blackwood's steps faltered as he saw Judge Whitmore already at her bench, that damn pendant of hers catching the light. Then he saw them, Sergeant Delaney and an elderly man who could only be Judge Whitmore's father, both in military dress uniforms heavy with medals. This court recognizes Sergeant Ray Delaney. Judge Whitmore's voice rang out. Victor Blackwood felt his carefully constructed world tilt. 15 years of convictions of pushing veterans like Delaney through the system crystallized in this moment of public reckoning. His phone vibrated. D.A. Blackwood's office veteran prosecution statistics leaked. Blackwood Falls was trending. The D.A. pin felt like it was burning through his lapel. District Attorney Victor Blackwood. Judge Whitmore's eyes locked onto his. This court questions your office's pattern of prosecuting decorated veterans. Care to explain? Victor Blackwood's throat went dry as cameras whirred. Every face in the gallery showed the same disgust he'd directed at Delaney just yesterday. Your Honor, His voice cracked. For the first time in his career, Victor Blackwood had no words. The veteran's medals gleamed under the courthouse lights. Victor Blackwood thought of his own father, another Vietnam vet who'd died homeless while he was building his career. The shame hit him like a physical blow. I move to dismiss all charges, Victor Blackwood heard himself say. His hand shook as he removed the DA pin, placing it on the counsel table. And I hereby tender my resignation. Share this moment if you believe in redemption. Has someone's courage ever made you face your own mistakes? Comment below. The cameras caught it all. District Attorney Victor Blackwood's empire crumbling in real time. As he walked out of the courthouse, reporters swarming, he saw his DA pin glinting on the table behind him. Like his power, like his certainty, it belonged to the past now. Through the courthouse windows, Victor Blackwood watched Judge Whitmore embrace both veterans. His phone buzzed one final time. Blackwood Resigns had just gone viral. Judge Carolyn Whitmore stands motionless at the courthouse steps, watching the golden light of sunset paint shadows across her world. The weight of the day's revelations presses against her chest like a physical force. Her father's embrace of Ray Delaney, the homeless veteran she'd nearly dismissed as just another loitering case, strikes something deep within her soul. Her fingers trace the outline of her judicial pendant, its golden surface catching the dying light. The matching pendant, now hanging around Ray's neck, seems to glow with a different kind of power. For years, she'd worn it as a symbol of authority, but now she sees it for what it truly is. A bridge between souls, between past and present, between justice delayed and justice served. The crowd of reporters surges forward, cameras flashing like stars in the gathering dusk. Judge Whitmore, they call out, your thoughts on the Veteran Housing Initiative, but she barely hears them. Her eyes are fixed on Ray and her father, their silhouettes merging in the amber light, healing a wound that had festered for decades. The paperwork in her hands feels lighter than it should. Documents that will finally give Ray the benefits and housing assistance he deserved all along. Each signature she'd penned earlier felt like writing a letter to her younger self, to every judge who'd forgotten that behind every case file is a human story waiting to be heard. Sometimes she says, her voice carrying across the hushed courthouse steps. Justice isn't found in law books. Sometimes it's found in the stories we almost forget to hear. The reporter's pens scratch furiously against notepads, but she's not speaking for them. She's speaking for every Ray Delaney who's ever stood before a judge carrying invisible medals of honor beneath threadbare coats. Her father's voice cracks as he tells the story again. How Ray had pulled him to safety in that Vietnam jungle. How they'd lost touch in the chaos of coming home. Each word fills in another piece of a puzzle she'd never known she was missing. The courthouse, usually so formal and cold, now pulses with the warmth of redemption. Looking down at her judicial robes, Carolyn realizes they feel different now. Not heavier, but more meaningful. Every fold holds the responsibility of looking deeper, of recognizing that justice sometimes wears unexpected faces. The pendant catches the last rays of sun, throwing golden light across the steps, like a promise. Type "Honor Restored" if this moment of recognition moves you. Your Honor, Ray says quietly, his weathered hand touching the pendant at his throat. Thank you for seeing me. The words echo in her heart, a reminder that sometimes the greatest cases aren't about maintaining order, they're about restoring dignity. As the sun finally dips below the horizon, Carolyn Whitmore knows she'll never look at her courtroom the same way again. Each case file will whisper the possibility of untold stories of connections waiting to be discovered. Her pendant, now shared with Ray, will remind her daily that true justice requires not just knowledge of the law, but the wisdom to see the humanity behind it. The courthouse steps have witnessed countless verdicts, but tonight they witness something rarer. The moment when justice and recognition dance together in the fading light, proving that it's never too late to right a wrong, never too late to remember our heroes. Share this story with Matsug Justice Restored if you believe in the power of recognition. The evening breeze carries away the last echoes of the day, but the truth it revealed will remain. Sometimes the most powerful moments in law aren't about judgment at all. They're about remembering who we are and who we can become when we take the time to truly see each other.